Greetings to all, it's wonderful to reunite with you. I trust your day is going splendidly and that you're in good health. Before we embark on today's tale, why not pour yourself a cup of coffee, settle in, and unwind? Let's relax together before we embark on this thrilling adventure. I trust you will find pleasure in the narrative, and I welcome your reflections once you've finished. Delight in the narrative. A former K-9 handler was on the verge of losing his residence until his previous German Shepherd partner executed the unimaginable. The rain poured in frigid torrents as John Turner found himself seated in solitude at his kitchen table, gazing at the final notice letter for the fifth time. His hands shook, somewhat disconnected from the coolness in the atmosphere, but from the burden bearing down on his chest, a burden that was irrelevant. Outside, the wind howled fiercely, through the desolate Texas landscape resonating, through the shattered screen door that tapped gently with each breeze within the house was enveloped in a profound stillness, the sort of quiet that speaks volumes, that lingers in the silence when no one has reached out for months and the mailbox merely delivers invoices and remorse. John had previously served in the United States Army, K-9 handler, a man who dedicated 17 years of service. Years spent in the midst of 2 wars, honing skills and preparing for challenges ahead, engaging with certain branches of the armed forces, the most exceptional working dogs he had encountered: artillery, bombardment, makeshift explosive, explosions, surprise attacks in distant lands, and casualties. Yet nothing had equipped him for the conflict that trailed him back home after the trauma. Medical bills, the loss, stress disorder of his wife to cancer, and the gradual wearing away of every support he once relied on. He was alone now. No family, no friends, none. Position: the Department of Veterans Affairs. The medications had often been slow, more challenging than the discomfort with his well-being. His benefits delayed and in decline. He had fallen behind on his mortgage now. The bank desired the house. He let out a breath. Gradually his signature was already half-scrawled on the surrender document when the phone. He nearly released it, but something held him back. In his gut compelled him to reach for it. "Mr. Turner." The voice was gentle, a woman's voice. "I collaborate with the Southern Hills Rescue Center. We have recently welcomed an older German Shepherd that was discovered, left behind close to a railway on the outskirts of Houston. He sports a tattoo that corresponds with a K-9 unit ID, and it identifies you as his original handler." John's heart halted. The name in the records indicate Max stood strong. In an unexpected moment, his chair toppled backward. In that instant, words escaped him. Then he discovered his breath. "Are you completely certain?" He's not doing well." The older son, scarring one ear, is partially absent, but he reacts to military signals, and he attempted to maintain a poised posture when summoned. John was out the door before anyone could say a word. He was aware of it. 2 hours later, he found himself standing in the entrance of the center, rain still falling. Gripping his jacket, the volunteer guided him down a corridor flanked by rows of kennels. And there in the final stretch rested a silhouette. From the past, Max stands older and now more slender. His formerly radiant black and tan coat now muted and lifeless, one eye somewhat obscured. A scar stretched across his flank. Yet when John moved closer and murmured, "Max, sit," the dog lifted his head. Gently, his ears flickered as he drew himself closer. Stood tall with noticeable determination, and then he sat perfectly as John fell to his knees. Tears flowed quietly as Max struggled to move. He leaned in and softly touched his forehead against John's chest. No barking, no. Softly lamenting, the subtle bond of 2 fighters who had been stripped of all, but after all these years, when we think of one another, the world had overlooked them both. John and Max had at last returned home. The journey back was quiet, save for the gentle purr of the engine and the sound of labored breathing from the passenger seat. Max sat next to John, his body curled in on itself, firmly on the frayed fabric, gaze partially shut yet vigilant. His coat was rough, uneven in areas, and his ribs pressed softly against his skin with every breath. John stole a quick look, then another, as if ensuring the authenticity of his existence, that he was indeed absent, imagining this gathering emerging from the remnants of all that remains beyond this. What a haunting presence this partner was, genuinely returned to his side after all this time. For years, rain drummed softly against the windshield, in a gentle, measured cadence reminiscent of boots aligned the windshield wipers. Grown against the glass, John's fingers gripped the wheel tightly. The wheel turns not from tension but from a weight. He was unable to identify where he had stepped into that refuge with nothing remaining to offer, and somehow emerged with the one something he never imagined he would encounter once more. The house welcomed them just as it experienced each day for months, as dark and cold, almost extinguished the porch light had long since. Feeling exhausted, the mailbox was overflowing with unopened correspondence, the majority of them stamped in red and final. Inside, the air was the floor groaned beneath John's boots, and the sole source of warmth emerged from a compact electric heater nestled in the corner of the living room, where John had sold off most to sell the furniture in order to cover hospital expenses, financial obligations, and accrued interest. His resting place was a mattress resting on the floor, with a crate serving as a table, poised on bricks. The stillness within those walls had transformed into something vibrant, As the weight of the atmosphere pressed down, John advanced with deliberate slowness. Each joint aches from past injuries and nights devoid of adequate rest, he fell. He placed his keys on the crate and then turned back. To Max, who lingered just within the threshold. Inhaling deeply, his tail swayed with a single flick. The dog appeared more aged in the soft glow of the dim light. Yet a glimmer remained in his gaze. A glimmer John recalled from the heat. Evenings in Afghanistan from the break of day. Surveillance from instants right before everything. Chaos erupted that night when John placed a solitary, frayed blanket resting next to the warmth of the heater, and softly stroked it, saying, "Here you go, old boy," he said, his voice slightly gravelly, as if it had been untouched for days. Yet, Max turned away, striding past the blanket. Beyond, the place extended with generosity and rested directly at John's feet. The head reclined against the boot of the man who had once guided him through dust, blood, and fire. John remained still, a statue in the chaos, gazing down for a brief moment. He sat down silently, enveloped in a haze of contemplation, next to the dog on the chilly hardwood. The floor dinner was just as empty as everything else. John opened a can of beans in the house, last, and divided it into two parts. One part went into a bowl placed on the floor, the other into a chipped mug for himself. They dined, without any formalities as they experienced in improvised encampments abroad, crouched behind sandbags or in destroyed structures. Structures, no grievances, no excess. Motion, merely the subtle comprehension of individuals and canines who understood the significance to endure hunger before John rested against the mug resting against the wall as Max licked the final remnants of sustenance from his dish and resumed his position at John's feet. Later that night, John perched on the edge of the bed, battling against the whirl of dizziness that arrived without his medication. His head pounded and his lungs constricted. The burden of countless years accumulated against his chest. Yet, just as his vision started to fade as he listened to gentle paw steps, Baylor shuffled into the room. Instead of reclining on the rug as he once did, he settled down, standing by the door, attentive and poised. With a slight lean forward, John switched off the light. He was unable to find rest. An abundance of specters haunted him. Remain motionless and allow the faded recollections to surface. A sudden burst of gunfire, a mission that took a turn for the worse. The instant a shot from a sniper echoed through the air. From the hilltop, John recalled in a split-second blur, the Vela lunged forward, its body moving with an intensity that demanded attention. Colliding with him, knocking him to the bullet narrowly avoided John's heart. It hit the side of Max instead. The scar remained, as did in the shadows, John's eyes fluttered, a breath caught in the stillness. Catching in his throat, he turned toward the door, remained motionless, with Max still seated nearby. Observing he had remained still, quivered slightly, yet his stance stood resolute. In that moment, John sensed something shatters and reconstructs simultaneously, not from sorrow, not a trace of thankfulness, merely in a state of wonder. Max was wide awake. He was on duty despite the years. The pain persists. The cold had worn him down as he stood there, right as a feeling profoundly within that devoted. With a heavy heart, he realized this could be his final opportunity to fulfill his purpose of safeguarding the sole individual who had always remained by his side. In the shadows of the night, they remained seated, united in quietude, one at ease, the other contemplative, observing as usual the moments that the aftermath was serene yet distinct. There was a palpable change in the atmosphere of the house, and in John, mornings started earlier than usual. Due to alarms, but due to Max, would softly prod him at dawn, just reminiscent of the past when morning alerts arrived with the aroma of sand and gun oil. John began to walk once more, taking his time as he moved forward, first down the uneven pavement beyond an untamed mailbox, Max hobbling faithfully. Next to him, it wasn't a workout, it was movement, is a declaration that they existed, still present, that existence, regardless of how frayed. The rhythm of their hearts continued to resonate within each of them. He slowly reduced his medication, under the guidance of a local VA, the clinic that had finally made contact. Following a worried neighbor's report, an anonymous tip indicated that the tremors had lessened. Panic occurred less frequently, replacing the feeling of being frozen. Whether it was preparing meals or foregoing dinners, John took to the kitchen. Once more, a straightforward and comforting meal. He prepared a sufficient amount for two. Max never departed from his side, even when the stove emitted a soft hiss or the smoke curled. The alarm chirped, a reminder of the forgotten bacon. The sunlit afternoon in the uneven backyard behind the house, John stood with a ball in his hand. Max stood facing the other, ears alert and attentive. The posture was tense, reminiscent of how he used to be in training. John lifted his hand with precision. "Sit," he commanded. Max obeyed and sat down. "Stay." Max stood still. Then John threw the ball and shouted, "Go!" And the elderly dog, with the identical accuracy that previously brought him a commendation abroad, faltered, limping certainly, yet concentrated on the expanse of the grass, and a neighbor's teenage son retrieved it, was capturing sounds from the back porch. He shared the clip on TikTok with the caption, "Such teams are a rarity these days. Anymore." The video took off in just 2 days. It reached 4.3 million views among veterans groups. Started distributing it. Responses flooded in from Throughout the nation, service members who long for the dogs that long for their handlers who once thought they were solitary in the world. Someone penned, "These two give me a motivation to rise again in the morning." Local news continued the narrative from National A. A small crew arrived one Sunday, courteous and respectful, and inquisitive in seeking an interview with John. Paused, yet Max has consistently remained steadfast. He agreed, so the reporter proceeded. Youthful and curious, sat with John on the porch and posed the last question. Softly, as though she feared. The response is, "Mr. Turner, after everything you've endured so much, why continue to struggle?" John gazed down at Max, who rested beside him. His chair, head resting on his paws. The gaze remains fixed on John as it always does. John's voice was low yet steady. "Because he continues to gaze at me as if I matter," John said, not blinking. "So maybe." The camera continued to capture moments, yet no one spoke for an extended period, and in that, America recalled a moment of stillness. Warriors remain unbroken, unyielding, simply restoring in the stillness side by side. It occurred on a chilly Wednesday evening. Somewhat tranquil evening John had come to, grateful for the simplicity of dinner. Chicken and rice enjoyed alongside Max as forever they found themselves seated by the warmth of the fireplace. Afterward, John immersed himself in an old paperback. Max napping next to him, his head radiating warmth against John's foot. At 10 o'clock, John rose to set the kettle on the stove. That was when it struck. Without any forewarning. A sharp throb behind his eyes, his knees. His breath caught as he entered the kitchen, the air thick with anticipation. Spun John extended his hand toward the counter, yet his hand missed and he fell hard onto his shoulder. Initially, his head struck the tile with a. The dull crack echoed. His body convulsed once, then, once more, he found himself unable to utter a word, unable to shift his position, was unable to grasp the phone that rested just hidden away on the countertop. In that, the stillness of a frozen home, shaped countless evenings. It ought to have concluded there, yet courage stirred at. Initially, the elderly German shepherd gently prodded his head resting against John's chest, softly whining and pawing. She looked at him softly when he didn't reply. Max stepped back, his eyes wide and vigilant, scanning the room. The front door was closed, the windows shut, no help was. As he anticipated the arrival, he devised his own strategy. Max hurried to the front door and scratched at it. Begin with every ounce of power remaining in his aging legs. The screen door yielded to a. It cracked and swung open into the wind. Then, the dog limped into the shadowy street. His lungs felt like they were on fire as he barked quickly and loudly. Desperate, he found himself standing in the center of the. On the road, a howl echoed as a sheriff's cruiser made its turn. The distant corner at the end of the street. The headlights illuminated Max completely. The driver reduced speed, anticipating a wayward animal, yet the dog remained still. Instead, Max took off running, directly at the vehicle, howling like an alarm. The vehicle veered slightly, brakes engaged. Squealing, the deputy inside opened the door. What the before he could complete. Max bit down on his jacket sleeve, not sturdy yet resolute, then liberated and rotated. Running back toward the house, barking, reflecting on the officer. Inside the kitchen, John lay on the floor. The deputy radioed, finding the floor empty and silent, for the paramedics, and remained with John, keeping his head still, examining for vitals. When the ambulance arrived 6 moments later, Max found himself beside the stood at the threshold and would not depart until John was packed away, sirens wailing around him. Heading to the hospital, the entire situation was captured by the dashboard camera of the cruiser. As soon as Max dashed into the street, to the deputy tugged at the sleeve. The department uploaded the footage straightforwardly. Named K9 rescues ex-handler's life. In just 3 days, it surpassed 30 million perspectives. One of the paramedics later shared with a reporter, had that dog waited 5 additional minutes, John would not have succeeded. The sheriff observed the clip intently. Once more in the interview, he trembled he shook his head slowly. This wasn't instinct, he said. Stated this was loyalty. That dog understood precisely what he was engaged in. The narrative of John Turner and Max extended their reach across the country, spreading rapidly, sparking a transformation deep within the souls of countless individuals. News. Various publications featured the story with attention-grabbing headlines, similar to the canine that refused to release its grip, and from conflict areas to home landscapes, a connection that preserved a life. Twice within hours of the video being released, a group of veterans initiated a viral campaign fundraiser to support John. What began with a humble aim of $30,000 to support urgent medical expenses and preserve his residence swiftly transformed into something completely different in 72. The total soared beyond $900,000. Donations poured in from every corner of the nation. Families of soldiers, strangers who had never owned a dog but experienced a profound awakening inside. John cried when he saw the figures, not due to the finances, but rather for the first time in years, he felt a sense of being remembered. They continued onward. John and Max received an invitation to Washington, D.C. for the National Hero K9 Awards ceremony. Was a remarkable event. An elegant gathering complete with black ties and brass accents. Medals, yet John arrived in his vintage shiny, well-kept boots standing proudly next to him. In a tailored vest featuring the phrase, "Still on duty." The room resonated with a deafening. Applause erupted as they took the stage. The speaker approached the microphone and expressed with passion he was trained to serve, yet what truly defined his heroism was that he never ceased. They felt privileged, with the most prestigious accolade ever bestowed upon a retired K-9 team news anchors reported. The dog that served the man on 2 occasions, who persisted relentlessly, yet the most genuine aspects of their narrative were not broadcasted. It was within the small instances that strolled through the evening light beside the fence, lined slow mornings with coffee and kibble soft naps in the warmth of each. The presence of others' time flowed softly now. John aged, but at a more gradual pace. Years later, the world felt complete. A spring morning graced by the melody of birdsong. And Breeze John departed peacefully in. He was seated on the bench, lost in a slumber. In the forefront as the sun started to ascend, one hand softly placed upon Balor's head. Ballard remained silent, neither barking nor whining. He gently reclined next to the man he had persevered through every tempest and remained. A few hours later, as the light filtered through the trees, Max took one last breath, and united with him they were interred. Underneath the sprawling branches of the oak tree in the backyard, 2 unassuming stones rested side by side. One side adorned with an emblem and inscription, the other featuring a paw print and a solitary. Alongside in battle, together in tranquility, some fighters may perish in solitude, yet the fortunate find themselves alongside their closest companion. We appreciate your presence with us on this an unforgettable journey of devotion and unwavering camaraderie. John and Max transcended the role of mere handler and his dog. They were fighters, survivors, and ultimately family. The tale serves as a reminder that love endures through time, with patience and genuine commitment never retires. If this narrative resonated with you, if it restored your faith in new beginnings, in silent champions, in the restorative strength of one devoted companion, then assist us in maintaining their keep memories vibrant. Subscribe to Amazing Pause Narratives for more authentic life experiences that move the spirit and ignite the passion. Honor the creatures that journey alongside us when no one else will. Show your support. Click the button to share your thoughts with us. John and Max's story held significance for you, and pass it along to someone who has faith in the bond of affection shared between humans and dogs. At Amazing Pause Stories, we pay tribute to the quiet champions, the ones who bide their time, who safeguards, who remains until the very end. Until we meet again in the next tale. The tale of John and Max embodies unwavering loyalty and profound love. Through all the challenges John encountered, it was his steadfast companion, Max, who remained unwavering in his support. Max's bravery rescued John on 2 occasions, illustrating the profound strength of commitment that transcends mere language. This narrative serves as a poignant reminder that regardless of the challenges we face, there is always a presence, be it a person or a force, supporting us along the way. It encourages us to value those who support us, particularly during our most challenging times. Max's steadfast loyalty demonstrates that true heroes frequently emerge in surprising ways. I truly appreciate your time and attention. Your time and support mean a great deal to me. If you found the tale captivating, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more adventures ahead. We invite you to share your thoughts. Please comment with 1 if you stand with John, or express what insights you've gained regarding the loyalty that exists between dogs and humans. Your insights are truly valued,